Hi everyone, I'm Ray and welcome to my kitchen. You are in for a treat today because we are making a delicious overnight oat recipe. So if you love chocolate, you are going to absolutely love this recipe. And the best thing about it is nothing in it is processed and there is no added sugar. Let's just dive right into the ingredients and then we'll talk about what the process is. What I have here is I've got 2.5 cups of almond milk. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put some ingredients together in the blender, and then we're simply going to pour it over the oats, and then we're going to put the oats in these little jars and we're going to let them sit overnight, and then they are going to be ready for a beautiful breakfast tomorrow morning. There are 2 secret ingredients that I think are really good in this recipe. The first one is we are using dates. And these dates, this is about 11 dates, and I've just cut them in half and I've taken the seeds out. So we're gonna start and we're gonna put those in first with our 2.5 cups of milk. And this milk is almond milk, unflavored and unsweetened. I've showed it to you in other recipes. I buy it at Sprouts. It's absolutely delicious. And it's got a lot of protein in it. And then the next ingredient that we're going to put in is 3 tablespoons of cacao. Now, not to be confused with cocoa. So if you don't know the difference between cocoa and cacao, this is the brand that I buy. This is cacao, and I buy this at Natural Grocers. They have it at Whole Foods. Pretty much, you could probably get it anywhere, even Safeway at this point. But the difference is that cacao is unprocessed, where cocoa powder is processed. And you can get some cocoa powders that don't have added sugar and don't have a lot of crazy ingredients. They're just cocoa powder, but there is some processing. With the cacao, this is basically a ground up cocoa bean. So the flavor of this is different. It's a different nutritional profile than cocoa, and it's also a different flavor. It's a little bit bitter and it's a little bit earthy, but not to worry because we're adding sweetness from Mother Nature in the dates, and the dates are going to make this recipe so good, and the cacao is going to make it so chocolatey and delicious. And there are some really great benefits about cacao. It's super good for your skin. It helps your mood. It actually elevates your mood and makes you happy. It's good for your brain. It's full of vitamins and minerals, and it's got antioxidants in it. So if you're craving chocolate, this is a really fun recipe and it's delicious for breakfast. So let me set that aside and then let's get this cacao. Now you'll see that this is a powder, and so this is just the beans that have been ground up. And the other ingredient that we're adding, the vanilla powder. Now, I don't like to use vanilla extract because it has sugar alcohols in it. And as you know, I'm trying to stay away from any kind of processed or unnatural sugar. So the vanilla powder is basically a ground up vanilla bean. The flavor is unbelievable, and it adds a different layer of depth to the recipe, and it's absolutely delicious. And then the other ingredient that we're going to add to this mixture is just a little bit of salt. Now this salt, it's called real salt. Here's what it looks like. And this is a mineral salt. It is one of the better salts around because there's not a lot of toxins and plastics in this salt. And believe it or not, there are toxins and plastics in salt, because especially if it comes from the sea is so polluted these days. So this Redmond's, this was recommended to me by a friend because of its mineral profile. And so I've been using it and it's really delicious. It's totally different than regular table salt. And I'm just gonna add, oh gosh, that's way too much. I'm gonna add just a pinch, just a little pinch. And the reason why I add a pinch is that I do think that it brings out the flavor of some of the other ingredients. And it's kind of nice to have a little contrast between the sweet and the salty. Now, it's not a huge amount. So those of you who are watching your blood pressure and saying, no salt, you could omit the salt if you wanted to, or you could use less. Again, you saw I just did a pinch. And now all we're going to do is we're going to turn on the blender and we're just going to combine all these ingredients. So actually, I'm going to give it a quick stir first because I don't want all the powder to get stuck to the side of the blender and not mix in. We might need to scrape it at some point, but let's start with that and let's just see what happens, okay? So we're gonna start on low and then we're gonna crank it up because what we wanna do is we wanna grind those dates up, but we want to leave them in a little bit of chunks. So those of you who follow me, you know I put date paste in everything. And you could put date paste in this particular recipe too, but I've tried it with the date paste and I've also tried it with the ground dates or the blended dates, and I actually kind of like the chunkiness of the date in this particular recipe. Okay, so here we go, starting on low. I'm gonna crank it up a minute. Okay, so I blended everything for about a minute. So I'm gonna take a look and see how it looks. Yeah, it looks really good. So the dates are ground up, but they are, there are little chunks of the dates, which is what I wanted. And so now we are ready to add this to the oats. Okay, let's pour it in. Make sure we get all the delicious goodness out of the blender. It's pretty good. Okay, set that aside. Now I'm gonna stir this up and just get everything combined with the oats. And then we're going to add some chopped toasted walnuts. And I like to add the walnuts in this particular recipe because I really like the crunchiness of the walnuts, because the oats kind of get, they're oats. They get like oatmeal, they get chewy. And so it's really nice to have something crunchy as part of this recipe. And what happens is when it sits overnight, all the moisture from the almond milk that we used and the dates just, saturates into the oats, and it makes a really nice it's like a cold oatmeal, really, and it tastes really delicious. Okay, so we've got that stirred in, and then this is 1 cup of walnuts. And walnuts are fantastic for you because they are loaded with omega-3s. So for those of us who eat a mostly plant-based diet, we don't probably get as much omega-3s as we should in our diet. Plus there's other vitamins and minerals. This is actually a food that's also very good for your brain. And if you notice, they kind of look like brains a little bit when they're halved. That's how I always remember how good they are for your brain. So we're just gonna add those in, and all I did to toast them was I put them in a dry pan on the stove for less than 5 minutes. And they got nice and toasty. Some got a little too toasty, but I don't mind that. I like that flavor. And it's a nice oily, buttery kind of taste that gets added to this, and it just tastes absolutely delicious. And that's it. Now we're going to put them in these cute little jars, and then we're gonna let them sit overnight, and then we'll be ready to have them with our breakfast in the morning. And the beauty of these, you can grab and go, If you wanna top them with some blueberries or a banana, that would be delicious as well. I just throw them in my lunch pail and eat them right out of the jar. Now these are 8-ounce jars. If you want less than 8 ounces, obviously you could use a smaller jar. It can be a little tricky to get these in the jar without making a mess, so I tend to use a smaller spoon to make that happen. And that's it. Now when we put them in overnight, they're gonna get nice and chewy and moist, and it's gonna be super delicious, and we're gonna have some very nice breakfast for the next couple days. Now these don't have to be eaten the next morning, but you could certainly make 5 or 6 of these and eat them the rest of the week, and that would be delicious and a form of meal prep. So I'll do the rest of this off camera, and we'll come back one last time before signing off. We got 5 8-ounce jars of our chocolate overnight oats with that recipe. And these are gonna go into the refrigerator. They're gonna sit overnight to give the chance for the moisture in the almond milk to soak into the oats. And it's gonna be so delicious in the morning. Now, before we sign off, I did want to show you, these are the oats that I use, and these are Bob's Red Mill. This is an organic oat. Because it's organic, it's non-GMO, it's gluten-free. And what I especially like about this particular oat is because it's a protein oat, this is 9 grams of protein for 1/3 of a cup of oats. So if you consider the almond milk has protein, the walnuts have protein, and the oats have protein, this is my protein for the day in this one meal. And this is a form of meal prep because we've got 5 containers. So whether you're feeding a family or whether you're just making 5 for yourself for during the week, so you can just grab these and go. I mean, it's so simple and it's so delicious. Now, I have tried this recipe with more dates and with less dates, and I find that the number of dates that I call for in the recipe, which is about 11 large dates, that's perfect for my taste buds. If you find that you want this to be a little bit sweeter, by all means, you could add more dates. If you add more dates, you will probably want to add a little bit more of the almond milk. So try this recipe first, see how you like it, and if it's not sweet enough for your taste buds, you can always add more dates and a little bit more almond milk. So I have a little bit left here that I couldn't fit into these jars. I packed them up pretty good, but I saved this so we could taste it. Now, it's gonna taste better in the morning after it's sat all night, but this is gonna give me an idea. Let's just have a quick taste. Now, I have to say, the toasted walnuts are a must. However, if for some reason you can't eat walnuts, you could put any nut, really. Almonds. I would do something different since you've got the almond milk. A pecan would be delicious. A macadamia nut would be delicious. I don't know that cashew would be so good in this. I think what I like best, you could also put seeds like a sunflower seed or a pumpkin seed. Whatever you do, make sure you toast it. And again, that was just in a dry pan on the stove for 5 minutes just to unlock and unleash the flavor of the nut. And it makes such a difference in this recipe. It really adds to it. You could also add banana and blueberry or strawberry or raspberry. All of those things would be delicious with this. But this is very filling at 8 ounces. So if you want smaller containers, you could put them in 4-ounce containers and you'd still get 15 grams of protein, early in the morning, which would be great. I hope you try this recipe. I mean, I actually am not a huge fan of overnight oats, but I have to say, this is becoming one of my favorite recipes, and it's so simple to do, and it's just, I love the meal prep of it because you saw how quick that was. I mean, came together so fast, and now you just let it do the work overnight in the refrigerator and you're done. So, bon appetit, everyone. I hope you try this recipe.